Welcome to IReb Resistance Radio, where we discuss the resistance work going on in Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District. IReb is an indivisible group formed after the 2016 election in opposition to an executive that we feared was going to do grave damage to our country. As our fears have been proven out, so has our membership grown. We attract people from across the political spectrum, but make no mistake, we are united as a progressive force in Minnesota's politics. Join us on our Facebook page. Search for The Indivisible Resistance of Eagan and Burnsville. Well, welcome to our next podcast. I've got a couple of interesting people. I'm going to be starting up their video. Lori Ann Clark, running for House down in 21A, and Dave Rugg, who is an activist who has been a longtime activist up in 56A. Welcome, Dave and Lori. I'm so glad that you guys could make it to the show. What we wanted to do today was we're going to start out with Lori. Lori is, of course, like I said, running for House down in 21A, and Lori's campaign is one that's kind of close to us up here in IReb because she's an indivisible person who rose up and is running for State House. And so I wanted to spend a little time and highlight her campaign and talk to her a little bit and just maybe get folks a chance to see what kind of a person she really is. Hi, Lori. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
It's so good to see you, and like I said, you guys down in the Indivisible group was Cannon Valley Indivisible, right?
Actually, no, there are two, but that's Northfield. We're Indivisible Cannon Falls.
I always get that confused. I never get that right. And I was and okay. So and you've been around since the start, like Dave. Dave's been around since the start. These are my favorite people right now, by the way. Are the people who stood up the day after Trump got elected and have been working their butts off ever since. And these are a couple of people who've done that. So Lori, what I want to do is give you a few minutes. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Your best stump speech. Who are you? Where you come from? What made you decide to do this?
Well, thanks. So thanks for the opportunity to share with everybody. So my name is Lori Ann Clark. I'm from Cannon Falls, Minnesota. I've owned an electronics manufacturing business here in Cannon Falls for 20 years. So I am a small business owner in a small town in Minnesota. And like many people after 2016, we did not like the results of the election. And we were very concerned about the longstanding survival of our democracy and having the appropriate checks and balances in our system. And I got invited to a group one day of people who were meeting in Cannon Falls that were concerned just like me. And in fact, they found me. Someone on Facebook said, hey, she's clearly not happy with this. Let's add her in and see if she wants to start attending our meetings. And I can thank a retired school teacher in Cannon Falls for that. And from that, uh, became the group of Indivisible Cannon Falls. And as we started meeting, I think I was added like not December in 2016, but I think as early as January 2017, I was added to Indivisible Cannon Falls. And in fact, that wasn't our name at first. I agreed to become the public face of this kind of little more private group. And that's where Indivisible Cannon Falls started. And we have members from Cannon Falls, from Red Wing, from Welch, from Besa, from Wanamingo, and we had people from Northfield, so Randolph. So we have people from all over our area that have been attending our meetings and getting involved. And over this period of time, we also decided that we kind of wanted to focus in on local and state politics because that's where we have the most impact. No, but that meant that we started paying attention to what was happening at the Goodhue County Commissioners. We were paying attention to what was happening to our city council. We were paying attention to what was happening at the state level. And then when, of course, we get closer and closer to that 26 to 2018 election, and it's like, who do we want to be running for office and making a difference for our region? And we didn't have anyone stepping up. And so I will admit that the reason that I'm running for the Minnesota State House is, in fact, because other Indivisible Cannon Falls members asked me to step up and run. It wasn't actually the DFL party. It was the Indivisible Cannon Falls group who agreed to be my volunteers, my supporters, who to run and work this race right along with me. And that's exactly what they've done. So I'm very, very grateful to the whole team, really, because I may be the face of it, but as you guys all know, The representative just represents your values. You're not really electing me. You're representing someone who's going to carry your values to St. Paul. And that's what we're trying to do here when we win in November.
I'm I'm so energized and excited by your campaign. Now, you are a hard worker and you're at the doors all the time. What's it like out there? What are you hearing?
Well, yeah, I've been out quite a bit. I was out last night I was at the Chamber Fund Fest. The night before I was right out here in Red Wing and I was door knocking. It was a beautiful night out, so it was a great night to be talking because a lot of people were outside. I tell you, a lot of people are concerned about the checks and balances on a federal level. Absolutely. The top concern, though, is clearly healthcare. It's healthcare costs, insurance premiums, it's prescription drug costs. That by far is the number one issue when I'm out there talking to voters. So when you look at it at a state level, 2 years ago, the Republicans said, well, we're going to do a one-time premium reduction, but that's all we can do. We can't do anymore. And I will say, no, that's not good enough. From this point going forward, we need to have the party in charge that's going to be willing to step up and do more for everyday Minnesotans in each and every town, in each and every county, all across the state, because everyone needs help. Everyone is dealing with this. So don't talk to me about how the national economy is doing well when your own pocket, when your own personal economy is not doing well, because the number one reason overridingly is healthcare costs and prescription drug costs. If you really want to help our rural economies and our individual families, we have to address this issue.
Yeah, so I think that's been something that I've sensed all along anyway, as well too, is that healthcare is not just unique to urban voters. We talk about that there's this separation between us, and honestly, on most issues there isn't. We all have the same concerns that we need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of our families. So
Exactly. That's so true. Now, one that maybe is a little different in greater Minnesota is truly the broadband issue. And
oh
that
yeah.
is the lack of high-speed internet access out here. If I'm in downtown Red Wing, they're lucky. They have fiber. They're doing great. But when you live out in the township like I do in Cannon Falls Township, or if you're in Goodhue, you're in Cannon Falls, you're in any of the rural townships, you don't have good high-speed internet access. And it's affecting our businesses, it's affecting our hospitals, our schools, our students, our families. It's affecting everyone. And it's not okay to have second-class citizens. I'm supposed to compete in a global economy, but I'm using, secondhand tools to do that. And we need to fix that problem out here in greater Minnesota.
And that's something that I've heard you talk about before, and I'm actually glad to hear that too. I think it's an important step to improve connectivity across our state. What about other infrastructure? How is that out in rural areas? Is there any talk about that? I know, the Republicans seem to have a lot to say about that. What is the real story there?
Well, we do have transportation and bridges that are literally decades behind in upkeep. That's a huge problem. In fact, Goodhue County, scheduled for January 2019, did add a small sales tax increase just because we have to bring the funding in to keep our roads updated. I will tell you that just today I received a message in my inbox on Facebook about the danger of our roads. So on Highway 52, the intersection that's down there on Highway 52 in Hayter, Minnesota, which I believe is going to be Highway 56, had a dangerous accident yesterday because someone was trying to pull out on 52 and we don't have a bridge or access. And when I lived down in that area, less than 2 miles away from there. We moved just 3 years ago. And County Road 9 and Highway 52 used to be the second dangerous intersection in the state. And we finally got a bridge overpass into that a number of years back. And we need that same type of change for the Hayter intersection as well. And we don't have the funding. People want to be safe on the roads, okay? But when we're having these accidents, people are trying to pull out on a very busy 4-lane highway where people are going 65 plus miles an hour, where it's hard to see, and people will get hit. They're dying. There's serious injuries. And even if you started that project now, it is years before it comes to completion. And that's one of the biggest issues about transportation issues right now. Even if I try to fix it today, it will be 2, 3, 4 years before that project even gets started. So every year that we kick the can down the road, we're that much further to a solution. And that's one of my biggest beefs about our politicians right now. And I say this all the time, nobody's coming to the middle to get the work done. And there's a huge opportunity cost when we won't do that. One, we hash the same issues over and over and over again, which means we're not addressing the other issues. Second, not only do we hash them over, but we don't solve them. So which means next year we're going after them yet again. And we just cannot afford that type of opportunity cost anymore when we're not coming together and actually finding solutions so we can put a problem aside and work on the next issue that's important to our families, our communities, to Minnesota.
That's great. It's, I just love listening to you talk. Like I said, you're one of my favorite candidates. So let's take a look at this. Like this, we've got this blue wave kind of in a bigger sense of things. How are you feeling about things right now? I mean, are you feeling energized? Are you feeling pretty positive?
I think I have a shot. I would love to see more people out there door knocking with me. I'd love to see more people out there phone banking with me.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely could use more help. We are, 52 days, 53 days away. Some of us who have been doing it for a while, you may think, oh, the end is near. Everybody else is just starting to get involved. You need to pull in. You need to get involved. You need to help the candidates all the way through November 6th.
So how's the best way? So yeah, I agree. We need to get folks down there. How do people get a hold of you? What do you need right now? What's the biggest need that you have, and how can we meet it?
Well, I'd love to help people come down and door knock with me. And I can let people phone bank from anywhere. I can give you a virtual phone bank, or I can email you, a list to do phone banking if you want to do some phone banking for me. We are just wrapping up my huge postcard to voters campaign.
I know, I love those.
I have over 5,500 postcards that have been hand designed by my volunteers.
That's awesome.
That we are going to hand address in October and send out to all of our persuadables in my district. So we are going to be having some postcard addressing parties in October. If you could come on down to Runwing and help us with that, that would be fabulous.
What's your website?
It's clarkforhouse.com.
Clarkforhouse.com. CLARK.
And then forhouse.com.
Clark for House.
Yeah, clarkforhouse.com. On Facebook, you can find me at Clark with the number 4 house. So Clark for House on Facebook with the number. Awesome.
All right. So Lori, we've got Dave with us too, and we're going to chat a little bit with him with some of the work that he's doing. And I know you're a busy candidate. If you are, can you stay on for a few more minutes while we talk to Dave, or do you need to run?
Absolutely. No.
Okay.
I can stay.
Okay, great. So Dave, and I asked you to wait till we get to Lori because I wanted to make sure that we got enough time for her.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But so I wanted to highlight your work too. You're another one of my favorite people in the resistance space, although I don't, want to call you a resistor because there's people that don't like that word. Resistance is that to me, it's that moral calling to stand up and say and do something. It's not resisting, in the sense of electricity creating heat. It's, I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to let this go. And you guys have both been a big part of the resistance. And Dave, you've been around since day one, and you and I, know each other right since the beginning. I mean, we were looking at each other like, what the heck do we do? We got to do something. And we've been going to, and well, Lori too, she was at all the different functions that we would go to, and we're just trying to figure it out, like, how do we do this? And so you kind of went into a kind of a particular direction. I had actually at one point had almost talked you in to being a part of our Indivisible Group's leadership team, and you kind of said, no, I need to kind of walk my own path here. I've got some things I'm working on, and I've got a kind of and I love that, because that's what we've all done. We've all followed that inner voice that said, this is what I have to do because there isn't anything better to be doing right now. And so, Dave. Well, first, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do, and what got you into everything?
Sure. Thanks for having me. And before I get there, I just wanted to say how excited I am about the campaign for Lori, and I'm in 56A working with Hunter Cantrell and door knocking for Angie, and we're just trying to do as much as we can for all the campaigns. So I wish you luck. You got a great shot and a great message, and I can't wait for the parties on election night. So good luck to you down there. Yeah, exactly. Just like all of us, I woke up after the election and was just stunned with what was happening and who was elected. And it really started that day. My wife and I said, "What can we do? I have no idea. I've always been a voter. I'm a 37-year military veteran. We raised our daughter in Egan. I'm from Afton, Minnesota. I'm a lifelong Minnesotan, and just kind of lived our life and did what we needed to do, and occasionally talked to a representative on an issue, but beyond voting, that was it. So this is really new. And so I had to learn. I had to figure out who the DFL was, how it worked, who the people were, and process, obviously, with what was going on. Got to meet hundreds of people in Indivisible and Stand Up and Our Revolution, Take Action Minnesota. I mean, I've gotten to know so many different people and so many different groups doing their thing, all with this same goal. And for me, the goal became legislation. Whether it's federal or state, Lori, if she's elected, she's going to go to St. Paul and she's going to work on bills. It's for me, it's about the bills. It's about the legislation. That's where the change actually occurs. And so I started to learn about the legislation, both at the state and the federal. And I quickly realized that I could not handle in my brain all of that. And I really started to focus on federal legislation, what those bills were, how my representative, Jason Lewis, at the time was voting, recognized that at the House level. And so I started looking each week at the bills and writing them down. And I created a process where I could understand what they were. And other people would tell me when I would tell them about it, "Oh, you should tell more people about those bills." And so that process led to this weekly legislative update where I provide a list of the bills going through the House each week. And at the end of the week, the results of the voting with a highlight of how all 8 of our Minnesota reps voted. I now provide that to over 122 Facebook groups. Right now, I'm reaching just shy of 1 million members of those groups around the country. And
my goodness.
I've gotten just amazing feedback. There are people around the country now that count on my posting to do their team or groups or individual work, whether it's contacting a member of Congress, or there's a group called the Blue Wave Group out there nationally, and they have meetings weekly and they use my updates to talk about what to do with specific legislation. It's become very popular, and that part of it has been a great learning experience.
We may have lost them.
Primary caucus process would have information about Jason, and that led to this website we created with 3 other CD2 constituents and there's about 5 of us, called MNO2congresswatch.org. MNO2congresswatch.org. And we've cataloged over 100 bills that Jason Lewis has voted for, and at least 3 of the 5 Democrats in Minnesota have voted against. And you can click on any bill. You can get tremendous information if you want to use it for door knocking. You can use it for letters to the editor. You can use it to understand what's happening. The landing page shows the most recent bills that we've put in. And for example, if you can click on 6691 there, Jason voted for the top one there. He voted for that last week. Each bill will give you a summary, and in the first line, the word bill is highlighted. You don't have to go, but you can go to congress.gov to actually see the bill if you want to. And as you slide down, we'll give you, you can go right to the bill and read the actual text if you so choose. This one is changing actually how the term crime of violence is defined. And there are a lot of organizations out there, criminal justice organizations, who believe that this will lead to more large-scale incarcerations of people who really did not commit violent crimes. And it was a terrible vote in our view as constituents, and we want to make sure that the candidates are running against him is aware of this vote along with the others. But if you go back to the bill, you can find other sources of information. We do not provide any opinions here. If you slide down why the bill is against our values, you can see what the ranking member of the judiciary said. We'll also give you a link to the committee report, and we'll give you sources where you can contact your member of Congress through a number of means. There's also a button there, Mark, if you scroll back up just a little bit. The More Info button will always take you to the website Countable, where you're able to look at both sides of the issue and additional information about the bill. So that's kind of the meat of the site are the bills. If you go back to the very first page, the landing page of the website, and just highlight over the Jason Lewis votes and profiles on the right-hand side there, just highlight there. There's a lot of information about our current CD2 representative, how you could contact him, the bills he's currently sponsoring and co-sponsoring, his ratings and endorsements for different organizations. You can see his complete voting record. You can see where in opensecrets.org, for example, you can see his funding streams, where he gets his money.
Well, let's take a look.
So there's a lot of information about our current rep, should you so choose to find that.
Not a surprise there.
Here's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, Hubbard, they're the local Fox News, I think. I don't know if I should say that out loud. We'll never have us on TV again.
But we try to provide the reader, and again, this was designed by our group primarily for Angie's campaign. At the time we started, we didn't know Angie would be the candidate. Jeff Erdman was aware of it and used our information early on as well. But now that Angie is the candidate, their organization is aware of this, and we're going to continue to catalog Jason's votes until the election. And Angie knows that our group is committed to doing this for her as well. When she's elected, we will continue to catalog her voting record to hold her accountable to her positions and obviously catalog information that will help her get reelected in 2020.
That's awesome. This is just fantastic work, Dave. I've always been so impressed with the product that you guys have put out, and you know, and the dedication it takes to have something like this. This is amazing. Good work. I've always enjoyed his updates, and we're going to be asking Dave going forward, him and his partner Jim, to provide us with informational updates for these podcasts. So as they produce new stuff, and like in the case of that one particular bill, you know, they're subtly changing our life. You know, these people, and so if we're not paying attention, this is how it happens. And then we wake up one morning, we're like, why do we have like a police force that's separating children from their families, and they're like, they actually have detention centers? Well, this is how it happens. And
exactly right, Mark. And it's just with all the craziness and the news of the day and the things from Washington and the hurricane, I mean, all of these things churning and happening, the House of Representatives and our federal government has been an absolute machine. Just very quickly highlight some numbers. They've introduced over 12,000 bills in the 115th Congress. They've brought almost 1,900 bills to the floor. The House has passed almost 279 of those bills, of which 239 have become law. The good news, if there is any in this current situation, is that the makeup of the Senate is such that there's not a lot getting through. And of those 239 bills that have become law, almost 80 of those bills are building designation, monument name changes, rule changes that really didn't make a difference. So there are some big ones: the tax bill, the health care bill. There are some really bad bills that have become law, but fortunately right now there's a bit of a buffer in the Senate, and I see that as a good thing. There's not a lot happening, and those things that have gotten through, there's some good things that have gotten done for foster care families, for veterans, but they've been done on voice votes with bipartisan support. Very few bills that have become law were actually totally through the Republican support in their majority. So while they have the majority, they really have not been that effective.
Yeah, that's because we're doing our
a
job.
couple of big ones, which I think is something that doesn't really get talked about either in terms of legislation. So we're trying to catalog that. We're trying to keep people informed of what's going on every week. And I'm really looking forward to this as a medium with which to share that as well.
Great work, both of you. All right, well, we're reaching the end of the allotted segment time here. So what I want to do is give you guys both a chance to do a little shout out. Lori, you got your times and dates. Got anything coming up you want to tell us about before we go?
Yeah, so actually this coming weekend, I don't know if anybody's available right away tomorrow morning. I'm going down and doing a double shift in Wabasha, doing some door knocking down there. We're meeting at the Eagle's Nest Coffee House on 2nd Street tomorrow at 10 a.m. to get started. Otherwise, I'm back up tomorrow night. St. Pius Catholic Church in Cannon Falls is doing a chili feed. We're going to be there at 5:30 tomorrow night to just, wear campaign t-shirts and enjoy some chili and talk to our neighbors. And, so I do the door knocking and I do the phone banking, but I also do a lot of community events. It's important that people see us, that we get out there and be seen. So I hope that everybody is doing those type of events as well. And you're welcome to come down and join us.
All right, great. I love that part of the state too. Dave, any parting thoughts? Anything?
Just one thought. If people see the podcast in the next 4 or 5 days, keep in mind a bill, HR 3798. It's called the Save American Workers Act of 2017, but don't be fooled. They want to change the definition of full-time work for workers in this country for the employer mandate part of the ACA, and they want to change it from 30 to 40 hours, which will be great for business, but terrible for workers. More people will lose their insurance or the ability to get health insurance because of this bill. And again, profits over people instead of people and profits. And call your member of Congress on HR 3798.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to both of you a lot more. We're going to be, as you can see, our podcasts are starting to spin up. We're going to have several more coming up, and you guys, I hope Dave, regular updates, and Lori, we want to check back in with you and see what we can do to help you out. So, everyone, thank you for coming on, and I think we're going to share this screen and play a little music, and that should bring us out.